to start the performance charts as to be demonstrated in this video by doing the following. Click the Functions button to open the Functions panel overlay. Click on the Performant Charts button in the Beta section. Move or maximize the newly opened window for your best or maximum view.
Hello and welcome to this demonstration of one of the new features of the DCP. We have here Performant Charts. Performant Charts allow comparison of performance between the practice and national, and also between individual items that are measured, and comparison between doctors within the practice. In this demonstration, I've had the superheroes item radio button selected. This means that the names of the doctors will be anonymized to the names of superheroes. This is good for demonstration purposes. It's also good for when you're running team meetings and don't want to show the actual names of the doctors while you're displaying the scoring system. So I'll run through the layout. We have here the chart selection. Now we can select between the national chart, the practice chart, or moving on down we have the names of the doctors within the practice. And then we get down to the names of individual items. So if we select, say for example, ACR, albumin-creatinine ratio, we have the scoring for that particular item. Now I'll go back to the practice chart. Just hang on a sec. And we'll continue our run through the user interface. Now the show group box here shows two radio buttons. The first is the selection for current week. The second is the selection for timeline. Now the timeline will show roughly 4 weeks of data displayed as line charts, and the current week will show the breakdown of the current week that's selected, and the current week is selected here. We can actually scroll through the weeks. So if I wanted to scroll back or forward a week, I can do so. And you can see that the charts are updating to represent the summary for that week, and we can have different actions when we click on the charts. We can switch details. Now this will switch to the comparison of the doctors within the practice, and included on this display for only for up-to-date percentage, we have the practice and the national. So this allows the comparison of the performance represented by the up-to-date percentage. Now here we have the total displayed, so we've got the the green, which is up-to-date and updated, and the yellow and red, which represent the overdue and not done. And if we look at the sort order here, we see that the green columns are indicating the performance in this case, and are sorted from left to right in order of best to worst performance. And we can see here that our practice is to the left of national. The green column is higher than national. This means that we are performing better. And if we put in the point labels, we can get the numbers of percentages. So we can see that for mammogram, in this case we've got mammogram selected, we've achieved 61.97% up to date, whereas the national performance is 36.3% up to date. So we are doing well in that regard, and we can see that doctors vary from Red She-Hulk at 100% and Great Giant Man 85%, all the way down to Nightcrawler at 33.3%. And we'll go back to look at the practice chart just by clicking on practice column. So here we have the practice chart, and we're looking at tests. Okay, so we have tests selected. We can also add in other charts such as the measures, the MBS items, and so forth. We're just looking at tests. And now we want to compare HbA1c. And what we see here is that we have several doctors who have 100% up to date for their HbA1c, and then we have all the way down to a 50%. Now, percentage up to date for a particular item does not take into account the number of patients seen. To see that, we can sort and display total. So here we go. We have the total number of patients with recommendations that were consulted for individual doctors during the last week that started the 14th of the 8th. And we see here that Plastic Man and Gambit and so forth, and all the way down to Witchblade, saw decreasing numbers of patients with those recommendations. And if we take into account a couple of other factors, we can do a scoring of the individual doctors and rank them from left to right by a score. Now the score is calculated 3 times updated, plus 2 times up to date, minus overdue, and minus 2 times not done. So it's just a very simple scoring system, and it's meant to penalise those with high numbers of patients not done, and provide a boost when a GP has updated patients during the week. So that's a simple way of ranking things. And when we switch back to the up-to-date percentage, we get back the national and the practice to compare. We can see here that national is doing better than the practice on the HbA1c, only marginally. Okay, and we can actually show in the number of patients that were considered not applicable. Okay, so that means that if an item is recommended and the patient was consulted, they would be in one of the 4 colours, and if the item was not applicable, say HbA1c is not applicable to a patient without diabetes, then that would go towards the grey column area. So that's just an explanation of the not applicable. Okay, now if we switch to the timeline, we can see here for the HbA1c, we're comparing the doctors, and we switch to, let's have a look here, ACO. Okay, so there's a broader spread for the ACR, and we can highlight individual doctors by clicking on their name in the legend. Okay. So you get the idea that it's very easy to pick out and highlight plots within the actual chart area. If we click here and select list, and we go back to the current week, this causes the patients listed within a particular color category to be open. So if we look for the night crawlers patients that were up to date for an ACR within that week period, we can click on the green area. When we click on that, we get the list of patients. If we wanted to look at the patients that were not done during that period, we click on the red area, and that will come up with a larger list. We have increased numbers of patients there. There we go. Alright, click on the yellow to get the overdue. And I think one more thing I'd like to show is the settings. When we click on the settings, we can get a finer grained control over what particular columns are shown on the bar charts and included in the timelines. For example, the billing items we can include or exclude. So if I wanted to include CMA billing, remove the diabetes PIP billing, and include the health check 45 to 49. So now we get those particular items in the billing area. So if we go to the practice overview and look at just the billing chart, okay, we have the health check 45 to 49-year-old, and we have the think that's right. I removed the diabetes PIP billing. Put it back in. Okay, so I have the diabetes PIP billing here, and the health check shown here. So that's all working as expected, and it allows you to show the billing items. So for example, if we click on the team care arrangement, we get a comparison of, if we switch back to switch details and click on team care arrangement, we get a comparison of the users and also the national and practice scoring for the team care arrangement. And we can see here that national is doing better than our practice. Put in the point labels, we can see that a total of 45% for the national, and our total is going to be around 26% for doing team care arrangements. That means 26% of patients consulted at the practice that were recommended to have a team care arrangement as per the guidelines that are used by the DCP, 26% of those had a team care arrangement that was up to date. In our practice, 20% were overdue, and 52 and a bit % were not done. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching.